Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
This is Phoenix Coryell. Welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. It's your host, Skip Coryell. Folks, I want you to check out our sponsor, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range. Go to centershotgunrange.com, where it's always a perfect 70 degrees. And then, of course, United States Concealed Carry Association. Check out their legal insurance and their awesome training. Folks, we have got a great guest for you today. I've been very excited about this for quite some time now. We have Terry Vaughn, who is going to talk to us about dangerous individual recognition training. Terry Vaughn, welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate you having me on.
You know, last time someone called me mate, they made me take a paternity test. So I hope that's just, that's a British thing, correct? All right. So, hey, that's just, it's who I am. It's what I do, Terry. But hey, you and I, we have a lot in common. But everybody, my listeners, they already know about me. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Terry. Who is Terry Vaughn?
Well, I served in the British Royal Marine Commandos from 91 to 95, emigrated to the US in 96, had my first encounter with some muggers in 97.
Welcome to America.
So I've been teaching personal safety or combatives and all that stuff for, many years, more years than I care to count at this point. But I've always been fascinated with human behavior and how to read and interpret the signals that people give off, which is in part where the dangerous individual recognition training began.
Well, so you moved to America in 96. You got mugged in 97. I'm surprised it took us that long to get to you, but it is what it is. What city what was that in?
Atlanta. But I wasn't actually mugged. They were eyeballing me, and I managed to put them off. So the mugging was not successful, but I was targeted. It's just a very unusual, because crime is fairly low in England overall. Not that it doesn't happen, because it happens everywhere. But it was just interesting to me that it occurred. It was on a train heading downtown Atlanta, and these couple of Muppets pinged me, and I was a bit surprised. I don't carry myself like an easy target. But, as is so often the case with bad guys or those with nefarious intent, they saw something in me, whether it was the fact that I was alone and they had the numbers or whatever it was, that they decided, well, maybe this is a possibility. And so I managed to dissuade them of that thought process relatively quickly. But it did show me sort of a quick introduction, difference in societal standards from one to the other.
Yeah. Well, okay. Now I'm fascinated with this dirt training. You're coming to Dorr, Michigan. That's just south of Grand Rapids. And most of my listeners know where that's at. What is the date of that training, Terry?
February 4th.
February 4. And I believe if you go to centershotgunrange.com, right there on their homepage, you can click on the link. And it'll tell you more about Terry Vaughn and the class and all of that. I've looked it over, man. I just highly recommend this stuff. I am also fascinated by human behavior. People can be just crazy. People can be amazing. They can be wonderful. They can be evil. They can be terrible. And I do primarily gun training, but one of the things that I teach routinely in my classes is if you can avoid confrontation, you need to do that. And so I see your dirt training as something that would help you avoid bad guys. So Terry, just take a little time here and talk dirty to me, okay? Dirt. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of your skill set, I mean, you could be a ninja. You have those skills, carry your self-defense tools, be ready. Absolutely. But, you and I both know at the end of the day, you win any given fight on a 50-50 scale. It depends on who is more prepared, who brought, the speed, the resources, the strength. So if you can avoid the fight, that's the one you guarantee winning. So even if you happen to be a Billy Badass, if you can see a threat potentially coming from far enough away to be able to avoid it and not put yourself in that situation, then that's a win every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you're not always gonna be Billy Badass. I mean, let's be but ugly honest here. I'm 65 years old. I was in the U.S. Marines, but that was a long time ago. And
Yep.
let's face it. I mean, I'm looking at your picture here. You get a little bit of gray hair there around the edges, and things happen to your body as you age. I mean, your hearing goes, the eyesight goes, your mind goes. I mean, there's all kinds of things that go, and even these really tough guys who are in their prime, hey, they can die. Anybody can kill, and anybody can be killed, and that's the way it works. So I agree with you. If you can avoid that fight, by all means, do it. So, can you get into a little bit of the guts? Take us deep inside the bowels of what you teach here, and what can people expect when they come to this class at February 4 in Dorr, Michigan?
Well, the primary objective here is to get you to interpret nonverbal signals in an efficient manner. So I achieve that essentially covering three things: mindset, strategy, and body language. I always start with the mindset because I think that learning body language is a curiosity for most people, at least I found it to be. But that's the high speed, low drag. Everybody wants to decode everybody else. But the reality is, if you don't understand or aren't as knowledgeable as you could be in how you process sensory information, what types of bias may inhibit your ability to scan efficiently, then it doesn't matter what body language you are taught, you're not primed. You're not ready to head out into the world and modulate your attention based on the circumstances and the environment. So I spend a good portion of this fine-tuning your cognitive abilities so that you can be primed to see the signal. And of course, the strategy and different strategies that you can implement to improve your visual acuity and how you scan, and then into the body language with learning the various signals that are often displayed when someone is up to no good. But at the end of the day, every single human being experiences some level of emotion. And based on the environment and the context, if you recognize specific signals in any given environment that don't fit, perhaps they're above or below baseline, more or less than the expected given the context or the circumstances, then you can put yourself in a position to be able to identify these deviations in behavior as the potentially threatening behavior they often are, and do it quick enough to make a decision. Am I intervening, or am I, beating feet and getting out of here? And of course, beating feet is always going to be safer, but let's say it's you at the mall or something with your family. You can't necessarily beat feet. If your family's anything like mine, they could be spread out all over the place. You may have to go find in order to protect. So, there are circumstances where it is not going to be possible to avoid. And the sooner you can identify a threat, the sooner you can make a decision on what you think the best course of action is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that I do with my business is I do a lot of church safety team training. And,
Yep.
What I've noticed is that a lot of what you're talking about is very useful. As like a greeter, because that's what you're trying to do. I mean, there's some people call it profiling, but that has, a bad connotation. People think when they think of profiling, they think of racial profiling, and that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about how people act and some of the nonverbal cues that they give off, and things of that nature. Correct?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, one of the best tools you can take away from this training is going to be your ability to baseline each individual as an individual. You want to enter into any assessment or any viewing or decoding as blank slated as possible. You want to look at that individual as an individual and let their nonverbal signals dictate how you respond. And just to your point of church security, I can't think of a group more in need of being both friendly and welcoming, as well as able to then decode the potential problem personalities in short order. As most churches are revolving doors, they have to be open in order to welcome in the people that want to come, maybe new parishioners. You have to have a welcoming energy. You can't have it locked down like some sort of military base.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that shouldn't stop you from assessing and looking and reading and decoding as efficiently as possible. I ran into this at TSA airport. The guy as I'm checking my bags and talking to the security guy, he's like, where are you going today? And I'm like, well, you've stressed me out so much, I can't bloody remember.
Yeah.
Thought to myself, what a wasted opportunity. There are so many different ways that we can interact with the individuals within our environment that will accomplish the exact same thing. There's a time and a place to be short, curt, and aggressive, but for the most part, we can get the same information, probably more so actually, with honey rather than what's the thing? You have the poison. You can get more of a better baseline on someone if you're being nice or able to present yourself in a way that's open and warm. You'll get a better reading of that person faster than you will by trying to play some sort of a hard ass. And so for church security, it kind of went up there. That's a group of individuals that need to be open and welcoming, but still be able to assess on the spot.
Yeah, and one thing that comes to mind for me is, when I was in the military, when you come out of the military, it's like I spent like 6 years in the Marines. And then when I came out, I had this stoic personality where it's like when I relaxed my face, I was always, people would tell me, what are you mad about? And it's like, it just took me years, quite to be honest with you, I'm not sure I've conquered that yet, but the way your face looks when you're talking to other people, they pick up on those cues too, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, mirror neurons are responsible for a great deal of the communication that occurs. But you're right, there is an adjustment period after getting out of the military, because for the longest time, my wife would say, you've got a face like a bulldog chewing a wasp. You look permanently like you're about to kill someone. And I'm like, this is my happy face. This is as good as it gets. But we went to a concert and a fight broke out a few rows in front of us. And the girl who was related, or the girlfriend or something, to the guy who was having the fight, came jumping over the seats up the concert kind of stair thing to me to say, hey, come help. My boyfriend's getting his ass kicked, basically. And I'm looking at her like, lady, I'm just enjoying the show. I'm not here to break up fights. In fact, you passed 3 people in orange vests with security written on them. Why are you coming to me? She's looked me up and down, and apparently my face and stance screamed, I must be security. And of course, I then got elbow dig in the side from my wife's like, I've been telling you, your face.
Wives are good for that kind of thing, aren't they?
Oh, they are. They will honestly. Yeah. So, I mean, it did take a long time to lose that. But mirror neurons are one of the ways that we can effectively communicate and pick up on the emotions of others. And if you're presenting a sort of a warm and fuzzy version of yourself, as warm and fuzzy as that can be, and the individual isn't giving you that back, you're getting information in that moment where it should be a reciprocal exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're standing there, you got your arms crossed and you're looking very stern, the other person isn't going to feel free to like be themselves and give you true, honest, good clues about who they are and what they're up to.
Correct. Yeah, and the face is the canvas on which we paint our emotions. So if you're able to decode what's going on somebody's face or in any other aspect of their nonverbals, from their stance and posture, you have an advantage. And not just from a personal safety standpoint, although of course I'm extremely biased to that outcome, but also in everyday communication, or even as a leader within your community. You have to be confident enough in yourself to lead that exchange and to lead it from a point of hopefully building bridges rather than enemies. So it helps in a number of different areas of our everyday communication, but especially looking at someone and decoding them at face value rather than having to rely on some sort of profile that may not fit.
Yeah. Yeah. This is Skip Quayle on Home Defense Show. We're speaking with Terry Vaughn about dangerous individual recognition training. You can go to centershotgunrange.com to check that out. Go ahead and register for this class. It's an awesome class. But Terry, I've got just a question. You obviously, you're much better at this kind of thing than I am. I'm just a door kicker. But when I do scenario training, like at a church, I'll come in there and, we'll do all the regular stuff like active shooter training. Everybody loves, to do that. But one of the things that I've noticed about a lot of the church safety teams that I work with is that they know what to do when a gun comes out, because that's very binary. It's very obvious, right? But when someone comes up and let's say, they'll just get in their face, and there's that emotional stress. You're being yelled at and screamed at, and that's what I'll do. We videotape this while it's happening, and I'll come up to the greeter and I'll just start yelling and screaming at them, being totally irrational. And it's like it totally throws them off kilter, and all of a sudden, this calm, rational person is stressed out. They really don't know what to do, or it reveals some flaw in their character. I've had guys where I've done that, and they have an airsoft gun, and I push their buttons, I make them angry, and I've had them pull out the gun and shoot me, and I haven't even laid hands on them. It's good to know what your limitations are. And one thing that I've noticed, Terry, is, and I want to know if I'm weird, if I'm abnormal, or whatever. It's a very serious, honest question. I've noticed that when I'm doing this training, I get into the moment and I'm like into this role that I'm playing, and I really am a psycho. Okay. But I've noticed if they're calm and they talk to me, that does help out. But if they lay hands on me, it's like something inside me it's like I want to snap, and it sets me off. Is that normal when you're laying hands on someone who's already half gone to snap, or is it just Skip being a psycho?
Well, as this is your show, I'm going to go with a diplomatic answer.
Oh, okay.
All, let's start. That's phenomenal training to put people in that situation, because you're right. When something is essentially black and white, there's either a weapon or there's no weapon. It's very easy to make your decisions on how you're going to respond. But under that type of pressure, a verbal assault in close proximity, we immediately experience a bump, a massive increase, of course, in stress, and the cortisol is in the system along with adrenaline. And so we start losing the capacity to think clearly, which is ironic, because although in training a gun being presented to you is clear, it's black and white, okay, there's a threat, I'll shoot. The reality is the stress that individual is going to feel in a real world situation pulling the gun is tantamount to the same stress they're experiencing when you're in their face yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
So a couple of things going on here. If somebody enters into this type of position where they're a security detail, they have to go into that knowing ahead of time as much as possible how they're going to manage their own emotions, as much as they anticipate how they're going to manage the individual that's causing those emotions. But if there's no self-regulation, then we have a tendency to start losing, even as you yourself feeling like you're going to snap. You start to unbalance the self-regulatory nature that is inherent in our everyday lives. We start transitioning to the base part of our brain, the primitive parts. And so the snap, I'm going to get violent with you, is the same version of the individual that pulls a gun and just shoots the person yelling at them.
Yeah.
Which you cannot. So it's very interesting. Another reason why this stuff fascinates me is, well, how are you going to modulate, and control your own emotions in the face of some sort of verbal assault? And at the same time, even as you are playing the role of the adversary, or the antagonist, you've got to understand that at some point, if the other person responds differently than you expected, or they get physical with you, how are you going to modulate your own emotional response? And I think with former military, law enforcement, first responders, it's possible in many cases the fuse is significantly shorter than it may be without that experience. Because I run into this shit myself, where you literally feel I'm going, like it's happening, and you've got to understand and recognize that your brain has gone into that zone where the prefrontal cortex has begun to shut down. We're now going with our primitive brain, and we are now in the freeze, flight, or fight response. And you have induced that in somebody else if they go to hands-on, but that is indicative of that individual may not handle the stress of an active shooter nearly as well as they think they might.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole fight or flight thing, I think a lot of us military guys, the flight mechanism is kind of like broken, and we tend to we go right to fight, and we need to not do that. But Terry, this has been awesome talking to you. We're about out of time, but I'm telling you, people listening to this, I'm sure they're going to be very, very interested about you and about this training coming up. Take a few seconds. Oh, one other thing, I want you to talk about your book. I noticed that you have written a book that sounded very interesting to me. Talk about that.
Not with my daughter, A Dad's Guide to Screening Dates and Boyfriends. So I can neither confirm nor deny that I may have panicked as my daughters were coming of dating age. And in a knee-jerk response, decided I'm going to write down some of the stuff that I know and share it with other dads.
Yeah.
But the interesting part about writing that book was I started out with one intention, giving dads the ability to essentially to decode and terrify potential dates and boyfriends, and ended up in a completely different place where that information is still in there in how to decode. But it was a journey and somewhat cathartic exploration of how to manage the emotions as a father with your daughter dating, and how do you want to position yourself. And it should be, hopefully, that dad wants to position himself as the expert, the go-to of supporting the daughter dating, and using his years of experience in conjunction with decoding body language in order to support her choices. Because if you've raised your daughters right, they shouldn't be bringing home Muppets.
Yeah.
And what you're doing there is giving you an opportunity to say, hey, I think this guy's great, I really like him. Or, hey, this one is going to cause you trouble. Here's why I think he's going to cause you trouble. I want you to trust my judgment and my observations, because I'm only in it to keep you safe and out of harm's way. So it was quite an interesting journey to write that book.
Well, I'm going to have to buy that book and read it, because I take more of a Neanderthal approach to it. I mean, the last time my
I'm
daughter,
shocked.
well, she brought home this great guy. I mean, she was going to a Christian college. She met him there, great guy. And she brought him home. And, I guess my attitude was, he seemed like a really nice guy, but, fear is a part of every healthy relationship. So, she brought him home, and, I just showed him my gun collection, and let's go down, let's shoot. I'll let him, watch me shoot for a while. And, it didn't scare him away. So that told me, the guy's got some, testicular fortitude. He stuck it out. He really loves my daughter. And, he told me he married her, and now they have 2 kids. He says, Dad, you scared the hell out of me. But, I'll read the book. I'll try to fine tune the caveman instinct that I have, Terry. How can people get the book? Is it on Amazon or your website, or where should they go?
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Awesome. Okay, and your website where people can learn all about Terry Vaughn.
tvempowers.com.
tvempowers.com. TV for Terry Vaughn, not television. tvempowers.com. Terry, I am really looking forward to meeting you in person. I will bring my sophisticated personality with me, And I'm coming to the training. I'm going to be there as a student. I am there to learn because you are strong where I am weak, and I'm really, really looking forward to it, Terry.
I appreciate that. Thanks, mate. I look forward to meeting you as well.
All right, tvempowers.com for Terry Vaughn. That is centershotgunrange.com. Go there, register for this class. It's a 4-hour class. You're going to learn a lot, things that you can't learn, just on YouTube or in everyday life. All right, Terry, thank you very much for being on the Home Defense Show today.
Yes, appreciate it, mate.
All right. Okay. That's it for the Home Defense Show. Check out our sponsors, centershotgunrange.com, where it's always a perfect 70 degrees, and United States Concealed Carry Associating, USCCA.com. All right. This is Skip Coryell. Stay safe, stay strong.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best in home defense.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!